Hey Eric, how you doing tonight?
I still say one of these days we need to get a theme song.
It would not be a bad thing. That would require work. That would require work, and yeah, you get what you get. You get what you get.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yep. Well, so how goes year 2 in quarantine?
Well, we did get back from vacation and kind of did a self-imposed quarantine for the family to, not, since we had been out of the state with most other family members, and we were pretty good about wearing masks and whatnot, but, come on. There were 7-year-old girls running around. The twins were running around, and they had no problem sneezing on anybody.
Yeah.
No, they were sweet. And so, yeah, we came home and figured, well, we'll just kind of do a week of self-quarantine, which kind of worked because my dad decided he wanted to come up and visit because we haven't seen him for quite a while. So he came up and he stayed in a hotel, so he didn't actually stay with us. But we did hang out and we had dinners together, and I don't know. Hey, it's a balance between trying to live your life and trying to be safe. So we did the best we could.
Well, that's good. Nobody sick though, not yet at least. Got 14 days. 14 days. Hypothetically.
Yeah, that's what it says. So nobody's sick. We're hanging out. And most of this last week was, since we were kind of just trying to stay at home for the most part, we did lots of chores around the house. I made an attempt. So I have the back side of my house is 3 stories up, and out the master bathroom window, we could see a lot of wasps. The problem is that's 3 stories up. And so I was trying to figure out, how can I spray the wasps' nest, the little thing they got going on up there, up 3 stories. So I attempted.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll see if they come back or if they're gone.
Well, I learned something very interesting just the other day about wasps, and in particular, the difference between yellowjackets and paper wasps. So since they were up 3 stories, I'm going to go with those are paper wasps.
Okay.
And the 2 signs that you can use to distinguish a paper wasp from a yellowjacket, well, there's 3, I guess. The first of which is that paper wasps nest above ground and make the little nests that, we get them underneath the railing of our deck all the time and out under the eaves. And I mean, they're all over the place. In fact, we had a nest starting in our trash can a couple weeks ago that I had to put the kibosh on because, you don't want to get stung. Actually, I did get stung by another. Anyway, yes, they're all over. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, but yellowjackets nest in the ground. So if you're walking in a field and there's a bunch of wasps near the ground and near a hole in the ground, those are going to be yellowjackets, probably, at least around our place. The second thing is that when they fly, paper wasps, their legs dangle. So they and you can see this.
They look like bees.
I watched them. Maybe a little bit.
Don't bees' legs dangle when they fly?
Yeah. I don't think quite to this extent, but maybe it's just that the bees' legs aren't quite as long as the wasp legs. But, I was noticing the ones around the trash can. I'm like, look at that. They totally are different. Whereas the yellowjackets kind of tuck their legs up. And then the third thing is on the paper wasps, you'd have to get a little close to look at this. And so you might not want to, but their antennae are kind of orange. So if you look at them up close, if one lands on your plate or something like that and is walking around, look at the antenna. And if they're orange, it's probably a paper wasp instead of a yellowjacket. Anyway, there you go. A little bit of I don't know why I said all that stuff, because I was excited to learn it.
Now I need to know, do I want them to be paper wasp or yellowjackets? Is one meaner?
Yellowjackets are meaner
obnoxious
than paper wasps. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yellowjackets suck.
If I have to choose between the two, I want the paper wasps.
Yes.
Okay.
That being
All right.
said, the thing that stung me was a paper wasp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said all that. Okay, there you go. But hey, because I have to worry about yellow stingy thingies. But anyway, so you were killing wasps. Sorry, I interrupted you, but you were killing wasps.
No. Yeah, so we were killing wasp, and I hope I hope we got him, and I got some spray that shoots 27 feet, and I'm like, well, let's see if we can get close enough, and no. So then I climbed up on my deck, or what is just basically a pathway to get to downstairs. It's not really a deck. And I leaned out and tried to spray, and that kind of got it. Then I went up to the third floor, took the screen out of the window, leaned way out, and reached up.
This is how very bad things start, okay?
Yes, it was getting progressively more exciting for me. Fortunately, I did not fall out the window. I did get some spray back right in my face. A
little bit of chemical attractant.
Of the chemical thing, yeah. So, but, we'll see. We'll see how long. We'll see if if I actually got them or not.
Oh, so. That is funny. All right. Well, anyways. I will keep my fingers crossed for you. I will keep my fingers crossed for you. Let's see. What did I do this weekend? There are 2-ish things. The first is I've been putting off doing a bunch of weed eating for a long time, basically all summer. And I was like, all right, well, the grass is mostly going to stop dying now, or stop growing now. So if I weed eat now, it'll look good for quite a while. So I don't know how many times I changed the string. It was driving me crazy because I would go for like maybe 10 minutes and then I'd have to go back and change the string. And I'm like, you see people on, doing yards and stuff like that are just, and of course I don't sit and watch them for more than 10 minutes. So maybe they're changing the string every 10 minutes too, but it was driving me crazy. So later, the next day, actually, Sunday, we were going to do another quick project, a cow project, but that leads to another thing. And I thought I was going to have to trim some more stuff. And I'm like, look, I'm out of string. So, if I need to use a weed eater again, I need more string. So we went to the
trip to Lowe's.
Well, we also needed some chicken food, and so we went to the feed store. But they had, I'm looking at the string there, and they had the 0.08 is what normal stuff is, and mine will do a 0.095, which is like, this is like it's got to be more. It's more than a millimeter. Anyway, I don't know what the unit is, but 0.095 is what I would normally get. But I'm looking at the string, and I'm like, there's a 0.13 string, and it's like heavy duty, like massively thick string, and I'm looking at it going, I want that string. And so they have a table. This is at the steel, STIHL, right? Is the trimmer,
right? And
they do chainsaws and stuff like that. And so I'm looking at a table that shows the string length and the trimmer heads that you can get. And I know my model. I actually had to FaceTime my son and say, hey, go out and take a picture of it, so I know what model number it is. And so I'm looking at the table. I'm like, there's not even a single thing on this table that says it takes the 0.13 string, but there's the string right there. So anyway, I asked for help. Guy didn't know. So I took the label off the back of one of the trimmer heads, and it said it was optional. And I'm like, okay. And it matched my thing. So I haven't actually done it yet, because at the end of the day I haven't, but boy, I felt like Tim the Toolman Taylor. I'm like, oh, yeah. So,
more power.
Yeah. So next time I use my weed eater, I'm going to put that head on, and I'm going to hopefully, I don't know. It's impressive. It's impressive looking. So we'll see. Oh no, but the cow thing was,
runaway cows.
We have a cow. I know that. I think I've said that. But we also had 2 of our neighbors' cows in our pasture to keep our cow company, because when we weaned him, he was alone. And so, but we had this other pasture that, has a bunch of grass growing in it. And my wife really wanted to get the cows out on the grass so they could eat it, because she thought they were dropping weight where in the pasture they were because there just wasn't anything growing. So we're like, okay. And we did the whole rigmarole to kind of get the cows moved. So we had to like set up some temporary fences and kind of, because it's not like you halter most cows. Our milk cow actually can halter, but anyway, so we get him out there. Okay, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then we realize, oh crap, there is one short section of fence, about 50 feet worth of fence, that the cows, which are two young heifers who he didn't want to breed this year, are only one fence away from a bull in the neighboring field. And that will not play. But I mean, it would be okay so long as neither of those heifers were in heat. And so that's actually why we were like, okay, we got to go put up another little fence that kind of keeps them off of that for, at least 50 feet distant or something like that. Okay, whatever. So we put up the fence. And then the cow proceeds to go through the fence. And so then we're trying to get the cow out, and we get them all up and back in the pasture that they were in the first place, and then we're like, well, crap, that was a total miss thing, but because now I've got a fence I actually have to go fix, but at this point there are 3 fences in between these cows and where the bulls are, and let's just say the next day, one of the heifers went through all 3 of those fences. In order to get back down there. So, and then there were 3 of us out in the field. Yes, we were chasing the cow. And my wife's like, you can't outrun her, right? Which I could not. So anyway, but eventually we got her back up and my neighbor just brought over a stock trailer and loaded them up and took them someplace else. But we had a bit of a cow adventure where, once the cows figured out, oh wait, that's where the others of our kind are. I want to go there, and our sort of not exactly cow-proof fencing was not cow-proof. So now I have I have 1, 2, 3. I have like 4 places of fence I have to fix now. But there's a reason why they say, mending fences, something like that. There's something about an expression about mending fences, and I think it's because you got to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was my exciting weekend, and a bit of Monday afternoon or evening.
Cow adventure.
Yeah, a cow adventure.
Well, we don't have any follow-up.
I gotta be honest, I didn't even look in follow-up to see if we had any tonight.
There wasn't any.
Okay. All right,
so
no follow-up.
I don't know what to follow up on.
Well, the whole Twitter saga's closed, so what else can we talk about? That's a joke.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, how about topics? What'd you bring me tonight?
Well, so I have 2 topics. The first one is, as we get into election season, which is now really starting to gain steam, I think we'll see more of this kind of stuff. But Reddit was hit. A number of Reddit, I guess they're called channels or subreddits, were overtaken / hacked and defaced to show campaign ads.
Wow.
For a certain one. And the key piece to this one is, it's not a really long article, but there were a lot of subreddits of channels that were hacked. And the key piece there was the Reddit security team basically said the hack took place after the intruders took over subreddits of moderators' accounts. So somehow they had got a cache of moderator accounts, and to the point where some of the moderators actually came forth and said, yep, it was my account that got hacked. And a note in here was, and they weren't using 2-factor authentication. So it was simple username, password, moderator accounts. So who knows where they got them? But anyways, it was a bunch of them.
Wow.
Some little known ones and some very popular ones like the NFL subreddit, a bunch of different TV shows, Disneyland, Avengers, some cities, channels for some cities. So affected
That's a long
tens of
list.
millions of subscribers. Yeah, it's a very long list. So as we go into election season, I think we will likely see more of this type of disinformation/information, like we talked a little bit. I think we talked a little bit about last week. And then my second article goes a little bit is similar, I suppose. But we've talked in the past about TLS 1.3.
Yep, we have.
Some of the newer features of TLS and how it's more secure, etc. There's an article now in ZDNet where China is now blocking all encrypted HTTPS traffic that uses TLS 1.3 and ESNI. So
I did see this weekend.
Yeah.
Boy, look at this. You're going to have 3 ZDNet links today?
We're just the ZDNet podcast, apparently.
Are there? Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. So the interesting things that I pulled out of this one is, the TLS. There's an infographic. There's a graphic in here about the growth of TLS 1.3, and it's now up over 31% of the top sites are using TLS 1.3. But because it's still relatively new, a lot of websites will, if your client doesn't support it, will downgrade to TLS 1.2 or earlier versions of TLS. So the encryption is starting to give certain governments that like to pay more attention to what they're letting through on their backbones of their internet. They're not happy with the inability to sniff and check out what's going on due to the use of TLS 1.3. So
I guess I didn't realize, you said it at the beginning, but I guess I didn't realize they were dropping all TLS 1.3, not just ESNI encrypted traffic or the TLS 1.3 connections that use ESNI.
Yes. So apparently now everything is being dropped and they require servers to fall back. Or the only way to get through their Great Firewall, I suppose it's referred to, is if the server supports the older TLS 1.1 or 1.2 or SNI, the non-encrypted version of server name indication. So,
yeah,
those were my 2 things that I pulled out this week.
Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting how long that can work, until either backward compatibility is not assumed anymore, or
right,
the TLS 1.3. I guess so long as the server is going to fall back and support 1.2, they can maybe get away with it, but eventually
stop.
there'll be a inability to fall back. We'll see. So the ZDNet article I brought to the table today, which is funny, and I have seen I read a lot of the articles off there, and I'm sure it doesn't hurt that I follow Catalan and see a lot of the things that he posts. But anyway, mine is ReVoLTE, the ReVoLTE attack. Although maybe you could also pronounce it ReVoLTE, because it's basically an attack against 4G LTE voice calls. And did you read this one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so I think I forget if this came out yesterday or today. I didn't relook at the date on this, but the issue here is, or the vulnerability here was that even though the standard says, so I think it's a GSM standard. Standard says that you're supposed to use a different encryption key for each communication. Base towers don't always do that. So basically they reuse the same or a predictable key generation algorithm. And so let's see. So the exact quote I pulled out for that is, in their research, academics said that the problem usually manifests at the base station, which in most cases reuses the same stream cipher or uses predictable algorithms to generate the encryption key for voice calls. So what this means is if you can record a conversation on the same cell tower, then you can decrypt other conversations on that using that same key. So, if you can compare the two recorded conversations, one of which that you were party to and one of which you weren't, then you can decrypt and listen to the other traffic. So the catch is that the call has to be placed from the same vulnerable base station. So, if you were as an attacker, if you want, if I wanted to record a conversation between you and Sally, some other person, I would have to know that Sally called you. I would have to be able to sniff that call encrypted, and I would have to know what base station she called you from so that I could then later on make a call from the same base station so that my call would use the same key, etc. Right? Makes sense. So,
is it real time or is it you record it and then decrypt it after the fact?
I didn't actually read anything about that. It might have been in the deeper paper. If I were to guess from what was in the article, which is, speculation's always secure, always safe to speculate. I would say that, if they're reusing the same key, then once you've got it, I would think that would be sufficient for you to do something in real time. But it sounded like for determining it in the first place was better or they seem to imply that you would have to have a recorded conversation that you knew and then one that you wanted to decrypt. But the couple other things that they did on this one, though, was they analyzed a random selection of base stations across Germany. And by the way, this happened in 2019 because they disclosed there was a patch pushed, and at least in Germany. But so they did a random selection of base stations and found 80% were vulnerable basically to this vulnerability. So like I said, that was in 2019, so they've disclosed, but while they said that, in fact, the quote was, researchers say that while German mobile operators appear to have fixed the issue, other telcos across the world are most likely vulnerable. So they released an app last week for Android that will actually test whether a base station is vulnerable or not. You have to install it so that it has root access, so it must do something with cell that isn't available within the normal Android sandbox. But that is kind of cool, and it's open source, so you can go browse the source on GitHub if you want. And then the last thing I pulled out of this is that ReVoLTE is they got a great name for this. ReVoLTE, you're replaying it. LTE, it's ReVoLTE. They have a dedicated site, but they don't have a cool logo. So they only get they get a 50% on the test for having a dedicated vulnerability site and a cool logo. So, okay. Next time, get a cooler logo. So we'll see. Okay. But then the second article that I brought tonight was, you'll have to actually pull this one up because I didn't take a lot of notes on this because it was pretty long. But this is I was going to say a blog, but it's more than a blog. It's a report by Kaspersky on their incident response analyst report. And I think this was for 2019, although it says 2020 on it. Okay. So, but the cool thing about this is there's just a bunch of data in here. So a lot of things that we talk about kind of in the abstract, they're exposing data on how often those sorts of things happen. And, the report itself is not, it's not deep. It's basically like 10 pages, most of which are pretty graphs and charts. So,
right.
But it's pretty cool. So, the first things first is when they talk about where they are doing incident response, you'll see that they have 0.8% of their responses where they're called out are to North America. It's because Kaspersky doesn't really operate in North America
right
at the moment. But, they're pretty big in the Middle East, pretty big in Asia, pretty big in the European Union. So, and the data in here is things like, what's the initial attack vector? If their incident response team is called in to help investigate and rectify a situation, what happened? So for 37% of the initial attack vectors, it was a vulnerability. 30% malicious email, and then 13% brute force. So I assume that would be something like password stuffing or something like that. And then the cool thing, at least on this one, and they've kind of got these things throughout here, is they also have a little bit of prescriptive guidance. So patch your publicly available services, enhance email protection and employee awareness, remove remote management interfaces from public access. Like those are some, sort of meat and potatoes, just the basics of, things that everybody should be doing. Another thing they had in here was how attackers move laterally within an environment. 25% of the time with PowerShell, 22% PS exec, 14% using a network scanner. I assume that's what they mean by this move around and get things done. And then 8% leverage proc dump. So those are, basically things that are lull bins or, live off the land binaries, things that are present on the system but have, kind of dual use sometimes. What's the purpose of, what was the impact, I guess? And in 34%, and it would be interesting to go back to 2019, see what this number was then. 34% was ransomware, 21% malware, 9% money theft, and then 8% data leakage. So I thought that was interesting. And then I don't have to pull out everything in here, but there was a couple of other things down below.
Well, so I was just looking at the chart on the initial vectors or how adversaries get in, and the fourth, after vulnerability, malicious emails, phishing, brute force, the fourth one on the list is removable media, and that one confuses me because this is the one where you go and you put malware on a bunch of USB sticks and then go outside the office building you want to break into and just kind of scatter them on the ground and hope someone picks it up and carries it in?
Well, not necessarily that it's social, that's a kind of combining removable media and social engineering. I think that that removable media on the chart is 4.4% of the time, which is pretty low compared to the others. Sure. And I guess another comment I would make is that different parts of the world probably are using USB sticks still more than other parts. And anytime you're moving, a USB stick between devices, there's still a chance. There's certainly a chance of, spreading that way. So, that is what it is. And in fact, there've been some instances in the last year of some. What was it? There was a company that had the USB sticks infected from the factory. I don't remember. I don't remember that situation in detail. But yeah, I mean, just because it, you probably haven't used a USB stick very often in the last year.
No.
Everything's just network these days. But that's still not the case everywhere.
Yes, he says as he's on the podcast. I can't say, but I'm my finger widget is a USB stick.
You're fidgeting with a USB stick.
Yeah, my
I see that. I see that.
Spinner is a USB stick.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So let's see. There were a couple other cool things in here, I thought. One of them was 30% of all incidents were tied to legitimate tools. So the quote in here was, in cyber attacks, adversaries use legitimate tools which can't be detected as malicious utilities, as they are often used in ordinary daily activities. So that's kind of what I said a minute ago. But yeah, PowerShell, PSExec. I don't actually know what Soft Perfect says. It's a network scanner, but I've not used it. But and ProcDump. So, but yeah, 30% of the time having legit tools involved is pretty big. And then there was let's see. The other kind of cool thing down at the end was they bucketed the attacks into 3 different categories. Or perhaps I shouldn't say attacks. They bucketed the incidents into 3 different categories. Kind of a rush attack. So if somebody's just kind of trying to rush in and see what they can get and do what they can. So that was most commonly ransomware. Download a malicious file from a email or from a site, etc. And that, they said the median attack duration was a day. So that's kind of the first one, rush. The average, the most common motivation was financial theft, but that was 10 days. And so the common attack vector in there, they also said, was exploitation of vulnerabilities at the network perimeter. So, if somebody could get in the network and, for financial theft. And then the third bucket they called long lasting, and they say months and longer. And so this is more about cyber espionage and theft of confidential data. So, and the duration on this, they said, was 122 days. So this was the one that I was like,
that's how long the air quote campaign lasted? Is that what
that's how long?
Is?
Well, they say attack duration median.
Oh.
So meaning that, there were, if there's 100 incidents, well, if there are 99 incidents, 49 of them took more than 122 days and 49 of them took less than 122 days.
Gotcha. Right. Okay.
And this was, the interesting thing here was the broken into an active and a passive phase. So let's see, let me pull out the exact quote here. So incidents that lasted more than a month were included in this group. So this is the long lasting. The activity is almost always aimed at stealing sensitive data. Such attacks are characterized by interchanging active and passive phases. The total duration of active phases is on average close to the duration of attacks from the previous group, aka 10 days or weeks 10 days is the duration, weeks is the incident response duration. But, so essentially get in, move slowly, do a lot of reconnaissance, and then, actual activity is about the same as before, but presumably with, better data from the reconnaissance or passive phase.
Got it.
So anyway, we'll have the link. We'll have the link in here to the report. I thought it was nice. It was pretty, and a lot of interesting and good data there. So that was my second one. That was my real one that I had planned on doing before the ReVoLTE happened today. See, like a pitchfork would be good for a logo for that. I don't know. All right. How about something fun tonight? What'd you bring?
I did not bring a Raspberry Pi project.
Oh, how dare you?
I know. No, this time.
Okay, I haven't clicked on this. I'm going to click on it now.
You go ahead and click on it. So I've always found just simple ciphers and how they work, just the mathematics and the mechanics of doing them interesting. And I stumbled across, and it's called Ciphey. It's a Python tool. It's an automated decryption tool. And so you input encrypted text, and it will, through a process, figure out what the unencrypted text should be for things like, Caesar ciphers or the, a reverse cipher, simple ciphers that you can actually reasonably figure out. And then a bunch of encodings, is this base 64? Is this, binary? Is it hex? Whatever it is, it'll try to figure it out.
Whoa.
And you pipe in a string, and it'll output the results. The thing I liked about this, of course, is because it poked a little fun at my favorite thing to poke fun at, JavaScript. So if you go down to, Ciphey versus CyberChef, it kind of gives a comparison, their command line tool versus CyberChef. If you haven't seen it, it's a, and not my words, a bloated JS app. Although I agree, but I don't know a JS app that isn't bloated. Funny. So that's hard for me to figure out. But then the other thing that I thought was funny in here is they were trying to just test his tool versus CyberChef, and they tested with a 6 gigabyte file, and Ciphey cracked the file in just under 6 minutes, and CyberChef crashed before it even got started. So anyways, wow. I thought this was kind of cool. I actually installed it, did a pip install on my Mac to try to use it, and I'm getting segmentation faults anytime I try to run it. So
aww.
I have debugging to do because I thought it would be a cool, it's kind of up my alley for just things that I think are cool.
Yeah.
And I can't use it. So I got to figure out why and what the problem is. So
I'm sorry.
I know. I was disappointed. But that's my something fun, even though it's a slight disappointing something fun. But the link is to a GitHub site. So assuming I find a bug.
That is pretty cool.
With the segmentation fault, I can submit a fix and call it good. So there you go. That's my something fun.
That is very cool. Hold on 1 second. Can I have 3 something funs? I'm remembering what I was going to have as my something fun today. We're only at 40 minutes. We still got 20 minutes left. Okay, so. No. We don't have to spend everything. But okay, cuz you just reminded me with your Python project. Okay, so this was what I was going to have as my something fun, but now I'm just going to say it and kind of rush on a little bit. But it is a blog post / tutorial on Pi image search on an OpenCV Sudoku solver using OCR. So
what?
Basically, you take you take a picture of a Sudoku thing. It'll use OCR to recognize the cells that have numbers in them, and then use deep learning. This is basically a way to teach people how to do machine learning. So the whole tutorial, but it uses it both for the character recognition and then also for solving the Sudoku puzzles. And I just started through this tutorial the other day, just for fun. I think I'm on his mailing list because I did a couple other things with him, or tutorials from here earlier this year or something like that. And so I'm on his mailing list, saw the mail earlier this week and was like, You did what? This is so awesome. So anyway, so this is my first thing. I think this is totally cool. So check that out. I think that that is totally worth saying something about, because how cool is that? And then, okay. And then my real something fun was going to be this, the Atlantic article, which is about, it's about COVID and about how the immune system works. And I particularly loved the subtitle on this, which is Immunology is Where Intuition Goes to Die. So, essentially, you can't just presume that it's understandable why the immune system reacts in the way that it does, and especially since everybody is different, and it just everybody gets a different dose, everybody gets a different. Basically, each person's a little bit different, and but the cool thing about the article is, well, it's complicated. he uses that a lot.
Yeah.
Let me read this first paragraph. There's a joke about immunology. An immunologist and a cardiologist are kidnapped. The kidnappers threaten to shoot one of them, but promise to spare whoever has made the greater contribution to humanity. The cardiologist says, "Well, I've identified drugs that have saved the lives of millions of people." Impressed, the kidnappers turn to the immunologist. "What have you done?" they ask. The immunologist says, "The thing is, the immune system's very complicated." And the cardiologist says, "Just shoot me now." So I don't know. Maybe that's inappropriate. But anyway, the cool thing about the article, so it does give a little bit of sort of basics for, how the immune system, quote unquote, works, and it was educational, I thought, and I really appreciated it, because I'm not a biology person, right? I mean, I'm just not. But yeah, this is a cool article. So check that one out. It'll tell you all about T cells and B cells and the fast response and the slow response and all that kind of jazz. Okay, but then I saw this third thing today. So click on that link.
All right, I can click on it now.
You can click on it now.
Here we go. Fully self-contained virtual. What?
Okay.
What is this?
Watch the little video.
All right, hold.
Okay. So basically, he did I don't know what a TZX Duino, but it's an Arduino with retro games installed on a cassette inside the form factor of a cassette tape, so that you could plug it into an old gaming system, so that you basically, there's a little CRT in the middle of the cassette tape that you can choose which game you want it to play, and it's got a not a magnet, but what is it that I guess it's got to be a head that used to read off the magnetic tape, right? So there's let's see what it says. That's amazing. How does it detect if it's being played? There's a sensor behind the sending head in the tape that'll wait for it to be nudged by the play head in the deck. That activates the play pause when you press on the deck. So basically, it's a complete self-contained inside the form factor of a cassette tape for having a whole bunch of games on it, and you can choose the games on a little LED on the top of it, and then plug it in, and then play the game. So I don't even know what the type of game system is. That I can't even see it. ZX Spectrum? Sinclair.
Well, that's it's a Sinclair 128K ZX Spectrum 2.
Yeah. But it's the whole fact that he did it inside the form factor of a cassette tape. Which is so awesome. So anyway, there was, if you read the Twitter thread, he's like, "You did what? whereas this, give it to me, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, well, if there's interest, I'll put it together, a few of them, throw them up on eBay. And if people buy them, then maybe I'll do a Kickstarter or something like that. So, but it's pretty cool. And actually I can see that there's a whole lot more on this Twitter thread than there was when I first saw this earlier today. Inside a cassette tape, Eric. It's inside a cassette tape. That's the only thing that matters.
Okay.
It's inside a cassette tape.
If that's what we're going for, I get it. That is cool. That's inside a cassette tape. I think I probably have cassette tapes around here that still have little screws on them because, it would, playing in your Sony Walkman knockoff, it would get garbled and you'd have to pull it out and use a pencil to screw it in one side, or worst came to worst, you'd have to take the whole cassette apart and redo everything.
I never took a cassette apart. Wow.
Oh, I remember having to do that a few times.
Oof.
Unpleasant.
Yeah.
Unpleasant.
Hey, look, there is a link. Okay, this is the link I'll actually put in here. So it's more than just the little video. Yeah, the guts of the loader is a TZX Duino, a Spectrum tape emulator related to the Arduino tape, using an Arduino Nano to store tape data files and play them to load software on the Retro platform.
This is crazy.
People are awesome. But anyway, so there we go. That was my. I saw that and I was like, oh, come on, Eric will appreciate this. The niftiness of this,
That is very clever. I do like the picture of showing the full, battery, LCD screen, buttons, all embedded in a cassette tape.
Right.
That is very
Isn't
cool.
it awesome? Oh, and you'll be happy to hear that today my gallon of 99.9% isopropyl alcohol arrived from Iowa or somewhere. So I can now print on my 3D printer.
You can now 3D
again.
print.
Well, hypothetically, I gotta clean it up since I ran out of alcohol. But anyway, okay. Well, that's it for tonight. We wasted a bunch of time on something fun. I'll have to cut out a whole bunch of it.
Alrighty.
It's all good.
You're editing this week, so
My
good
problem.
luck with that.
My problem. All right, Eric. Have a good night.
Yep. Have a good night, John.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.